Oh, okay. So today we're going to run through on-page optimization versus off-page SEO and what's more important depending on your current business situation or your website. So my name is Tom Buckland. I'm the founder of Ghost Marketing, which is a link building agency. We also have a technical SEO division in-house as well. So I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible throughout this presentation, but we're going to make some key points as to what is more important depending on where you are and where your website is currently from a revenue, lead generation, sales point of view. So obviously before we go any further, they're both important in their own ways. You can't have one or the other. Large businesses are going to have very strong teams of both or very strong agencies dealing with both. So you can't pick and choose one over another. But what we can do is actually prioritize one. So depending on where your website is going, what industry you're in, competition, how tough it is to generate links, and all of these things will depend on whether we can actually go ahead and say, okay, we're going to invest more budget into this side or more budget into this side. So a quick rundown of both of these topics. So on-page optimization, as we're referring to it here, is going to go through technical SEO, great content, on-page optimization, and user experience. So this is basically all changes to content and code of a website. So things like user experience and great content, they're going to improve obviously the user experience metrics, which are indirect ranking factors. So they do kind of help with on-page SEO in and of itself. Obviously technical SEO, things like site speed, crawl budget, ensuring that you have a good site structure is always essential and always will be. And then on-page optimization, what are you actually targeting, what keywords you're looking to rank for on those specific pages. Okay, so most of the elements within on-page, in fact 99% of them, are within your control. There's a few things like crawl budget that you technically do not control and log analyzer, but you can do things that improve your likelihood of having strong scores in that specific category. So the good thing about on-page SEO is you control 99% of it. Off-page SEO, obviously the major one is backlinks. But we've also grouped social signals and other marketing efforts into here, and then obviously more links. So links are still the #1 ranking factor in Google. Don't let any SEO or digital marketing person try and tell you otherwise. If you look at the top ranking sites, it's almost a direct correlation between the strongest and most relevant links and the organic ranking positions. I don't expect this to change within the next 5 years. So in that case, when we talk about off-page SEO, we're primarily talking about links, okay? Now things like social signals are somewhat important, but they can never be a direct ranking factor because Google wouldn't want to give control over to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to kind of analyze whether they are user experience signals and trust signals in and of itself. So Google's never going to put a part in their algorithm that's based on another company. It's just not going to happen. If you look at what they've done in the past, it's physically impossible. So yeah, we're going to talk about links when we talk about off-page because they are the #1 ranking factor. So the method we're going to use for this comparison is going to be a hands-on approach. So we're going to use top-tier mega cost per click search terms and check these cutthroat competitors. Then we're going to analyze the top 3 results and assess for on and off-page signals. This isn't rocket science, but it may as well be. It sounds more complicated than it is. It's actually quite easy to understand. So the example I always use if you've seen me speak or if you've even just kind of read some of the blog posts is the home insurance niche. Because if we have a look here, we can see that there's obvious on-page elements in place, okay? So we've got obviously the SEO title, they're going to have the keyword in there. And if you have a look at the first 2 titles, they're actually completely the same. They're identical aside from the brand metric. So Money Supermarket is a company in the UK, I believe, and Compare the Market, again, another one. And then Admiral, a $1 billion insurance company as well. So the title is always going to be important and you always should have your primary keyword in there. I'm not going to argue with anyone on that. URL, again, is the exact keyword, but do you notice how there's no other ranking element? So they're not saying cheap home insurance. They're not saying, you know, home insurance quotes in the URL string. So instantly now we know if we're going to build out this page to rank for this home insurance term, we want to target only that term for this page, okay? And we can have, you know, compare cheap home insurance quotes as our title, but the URL itself needs to be the exact keyword and only the keyword. Okay, this is something I've seen a little bit more in more competitive SERPs at the moment, and it's something to keep an eye on. And then finally, we've got obviously the meta description and the schema markup, which is the review stars. Now here, if we saw these three and we weren't in SEO, then we're most likely going to click on the first one because it's taking up the most real estate. You can see they have mini site links here, and it's contents, insurance, buildings, insurance, home insurance guide. Okay, and if you dig deep into these pages, you'll see that topical relevance is playing as well. Okay, so what do you notice overall? It's pretty much exactly the same, in short. Okay. If we have a look at the link profiles of the top three results, it's a very different story. Now, we can see that Money Supermarket, that home insurance page, to that one page, has 656 referring domains, okay? And then we can see that Compare the Market has 151 different referring domains, and finally Admiral 39. Now, although the DR of the sites are also in order, which is a very interesting one to have a look at. So you have DR, which is Ahrefs domain rating. It's basically an authority metric that they use to determine the overall quality of the site from a link analysis point of view. And if we have a look here, we can actually see that it's again a direct correlation from ranking first to third. Okay, so this is very interesting. And if you have a look at those traffic figures, there's a very big drop off between the first and the third position, and there's also a very big drop off in terms of links as well. If we have a look at Money Supermarket's referring domains again, 656, that's almost 20 times 39. Okay, so again, this is going to be something that you really need to look at, and this is why we reverse engineer SERP results individually, because if you're targeting these highly commercial terms, everything needs to come back to search your intent, needs to come back to reverse engineering what's already working. There's a number of good tools on the market, such as Page Optimizer Pro, Quora, if you're a little bit more advanced, that really do help this work. But at the end of the day, you can look at the top three ranking results, and you can even run them through a TF-IDF tool. Again, if you're not sure what that is, there's a good guide by Nick Eubanks on this. Just Google TF-IDF Nick and read about that. So it's, again, ensuring that your on-page is perfect is obviously very important. But when you actually come in for hyper commercial keywords, the ones that will generate, 7 figures a month, you have to generate links to that specific page. Here's a direct correlation between ranking first and earning X amount, generating X amount of leads for this business, or ranking third and generating X amount, usually 20 times less, if obviously the domains were the element to go off. This is why, in my opinion, if you're targeting hyper competitive niches, you should invest 90% of your budget into link building. Now, that's not to say 90% across the entire year, because you will still need to technically audit the site, you still need to ensure your on-page is perfect and your content is perfect. And there's also something called topical relevance, which we'll get onto in a later video, and I'll explain in a bit more detail. So, a little rider for 2019. There's a clear distinction between local and non-local search results now. So for example, Google actually uses two different algorithms to rank a local search result and a non-local one. Okay, so it's difficult to cut across the board, especially for local SEO. Okay, so the SERPs to be skewed by local factors such as distance, prices, business timings, etc. So if I'm coming to work very early and I search coffee shop, Google will obviously naturally show me the ones that are open, okay, and near me. Now that's really good because I don't have to say coffee shops near X location, opening before X. Yeah, if I'm on my phone and I'm walking at the same time, that's a very long search query that I can't be bothered to do. So this is great, but it's also a bit of an issue if you don't actually have a location in a high traffic area. So let's say you live on the outskirts and you have a home office. Now, regardless of how good your service actually is, if you're looking to rank for local terms, it's going to be more difficult. And this is something we've seen with a couple of high authority niches, things like lawyers, things like accountants. When you are outside these high traffic areas, you can still rank, but you are losing from the skewed element of essentially not having an office or a phone in the middle of the city center, if that's where the majority of search volume is coming from. Okay, hopefully that makes sense as well. So here's the deal. For competitive SERPs, off-page has more influence. Okay, it's just what it is, because you won't be able to rank without links, even if you have a very high domain authority. okay? And then assuming that your on-page is already in order, invest 90% of your budget into link building, okay? Less competitive SERPs, I'd actually probably reverse this, and I'd say sort out your content optimization, sort out your on-page and your technical SEO first, and then you have the chance to rank with fewer links, but you need to have picture perfect on-page, okay? So we have 2 deliverables in-house. One is called on-page optimization and one is called perfected on-page. And this is quite confusing to a lot of clients, but essentially means that there's a lot of 80-20 rule in SEO. So if you take the H1 tag, the title tag and the URL, then that's actually going to be 80% of the organic ranking factors for less competitive SERPs, okay? And this is why you see people ranking with very, very poor content, very thin content for less competitive SERPs, especially local stuff. But if you're going after something that's more competitive, then you have absolutely no chance unless your content is very, very good and very sharp, okay? With a lot of LSI keywords, and obviously Google looks at semantics even more now. So they know what they're looking to see within a piece of content. So that's basically the deal. That's how we approach it. And it's also good to understand that if your business is in a specific situation, so if you are, say, just a startup and you're generating revenues of less than $500,000 a year, it's probably going to be better for you to solve your technical SEO, optimization, on-page, and content auditing, content topic creation, and just writing good content than investing into link building. As soon as you get above that figure, it's kind of becomes more important to focus on link building, just because your competitors are going to be investing a lot of money into it, and if you're targeting the same keywords, you're not going to win, okay? So off-page gives you a robust lifetime ROI if you can be patient as well. So links, if they are created naturally or if they are done through a white hat way, are essentially never going to get you penalized, and they're always going to ensure that you rank relatively high because they're not going to be deleted. Okay, so you're only going to be outranked when somebody builds either a better piece of content with better on-page or generates more links than you. And if you're constantly building links and you rank, say, first, for example, then realistically, you should never drop from there. Okay, on-page SEO is the same for everyone, but links just give you a massive edge moving forward. Okay, new website yet to be established, credentials, obviously, then you should be focusing on page and especially technical optimization and faster results, but you'll still need off-page to be sustainable, okay? So unless you have a very, very specific offering where you don't really need links to add authority to your website, you can just build really good content and on-page, then 100% go for that. But most of the time, that's not the case in the business economics world. And then that's everything. So in conclusion, both on-page and off-page are obviously extremely important, but one makes the other better. So for this, I mean, if you have really good links coming into a website, and then you optimize that site itself from an on-page and technical point of view, your rankings will massively, massively increase, okay? And there's a few things to take into account here as well. So your cash flow, priorities, investment appetite, and obviously risk should dictate your focus. So if you want to invest into a really, really strong, aggressive link building campaign, then go for it. But just understand that it might be better to take it slow, build up your technicals and on-page first, and then come to link building at a later date. Okay, and then if you have any questions about this, feel free to get in touch with me. You can visit the Twitter or get in touch via tom@ghostmarketing.co.uk. Okay, thanks for listening. Cheers.